Good afternoon, everybody. It's Monday, August 14th, so it's time for Live Chats with Maggie and Bunny. I'm Maggie.
And I'm Bunny, and it's just afternoon. Monday afternoon
I know.
is when we do it. And we said, let's surprise everybody and come right on.
Surprising everybody today. They're going to be going, what? It's not 3 o'clock. It's not 4 o'clock. It's not 2 o'clock. No, it's 2 minutes after noon. Bunny, why don't you read what our topic is today?
When old ways, and I put that in quotes, creep up.
When old ways creep up.
Yeah.
And as usual, we have examples from our real life.
Real life.
that we can talk about. And I can give you an example of me as a younger person. With me, when I was younger, I didn't need very many friends. I wasn't the social butterfly that I am now. Just kidding, because I'm not now either. But I didn't need very many friends. But the one habit that I noticed in my life was that if somebody made me angry, or somebody hurt my feelings, or somebody didn't live up to my expectations, I'd just stop being their friend. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't see them again. Yeah. And I'd cut them out of my life. And that became the norm for Maggie. Yeah. That if I come into difficult situations that emotionally were hard for me, I'd just move on. But lately, it's been coming to me that might not have been the best option. Yeah. I might have missed out on opportunities. Mm-hmm. And I say that because I've had a couple of things come up in my life in the past few months that have tugged at that old way coming back, and me wanting to just run away, if you want to call it that. Yeah. But Spirit has been nudging me and speaking to me. Is that your best option? Is that really what you should do? Yeah, we live in choice, and Maggie, you can do whatever you want to do, but is that the best choice?
It's funny. It really is funny when you say that, because is it the best choice is only comes up as you're healing. Right? Because when you're wounded, when you're not looking at healing,
yeah,
you don't even see other choices. The cut, because the cutting the people, and I also I thought it was really funny when you're saying this, is I also used to do that. I also used to do that, and it was a survival thing. Really, what it was I want to say what I'm getting right now, and I look off outside because I'm thinking about it, is what I want to say. It's almost like if your hand was infected, and the choice was either you're going to die or cut off that hand, you're cutting off that hand. And it felt the same kind of thing. Is this person, this experience, this whatever it is possibly going to hurt me. So I'm going to cut it off.
Yeah.
I'm going to just cut it off and move on. But you didn't, or at least in my case, like when I say you, I'm talking in general, you didn't actually heal anything. I didn't even forgive. Sometimes I would sort of hold a grudge, and I would be proud of that fact that I'm not talking to this person anymore. I actually have an example of it, and it was my grandma Jean, she was my paternal grandmother. And there was an incident that had happened when I was 15 years old. And she accused me of stealing, and it was a misunderstanding. And she accused me of stealing, but then came afterwards, after she'd already told my parents. And she came afterwards when she realized that it had been a mistake. But I held a grudge. I cut her out of my life. And she came to our house every Sunday to have tea. She was Scottish. Have tea with my dad. And when I saw her car pull up in front of the house, I would go into my bedroom and I would stay there until she left.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, I'm not talking to her. I'm mad at her, even though she apologized to me. It took my uncle, her other son, it took my Uncle John one day when he was visiting, and he didn't visit very often. So when he was visiting and he didn't like that the family was split up, it took him saying, you're going to come out and visit me, and my mom is here as well, and you're going to be in the same room. And I was stubborn, but I did it.
Yeah.
And I actually did forgive her, and I actually wound up buying her house. So that's where I lived for 22 years of my life. So there was, so I do have an example of where I did cut it out, and then I did heal.
Yeah. And I think sometimes too, that urge to run away, leave, disconnect, it also takes away the opportunity for you seeing your part in that, for you seeing that you could have offered grace and acceptance and forgiveness and taken them off that place, that pedestal that you put them where they would never hurt you, and allowed yourself to see them as human.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I'm running into right now with somebody in my life, is that I need to offer grace. I need to offer forgiveness. I need to offer the opportunity that maybe they just made a mistake.
Well, and like, even when we were sort of talking about this, when we were talking about what was the topic we were going to talk about, and I mentioned that it's sometimes too, it's not even them. Like, that's the whole thing. It's the expectation that we place on other people. And sometimes I say this, I refer this to my sister sometimes, is when I talk to her a lot. So, but and I say, well, the person's taking a test, they're failing a test they didn't even know they were taking. And that is, there's actually other things that even you and I have had in our life where the same thing. And we talked about that one time, about people placing us on a pedestal, people having an expectation of us, and how then the pressure that you feel as that expectation is put up there. And I know that sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. And I think in the spiritual community, that's a big thing. Even when we're talking about this right now, is like, forgiveness is a big thing, giving grace. But as we discussed when we took the mindfulness with John Shearer, when we went through his book, is that it is a practice. So it's not a perfect. So it's something that we do continuously, and we're going to make quote unquote mistakes. There's going to be times where we're going to slip back, where you're going to think that you've healed a specific thing, and it's going to pop back up again, and it's going to show back up.
Yeah. And I think the big thing for me in this present situation is even recognizing that I want to run away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before I do it, because oftentimes, I remember that proverbial bridge that we burn. Oftentimes that bridge is in flames before I think, oh, well, maybe that wasn't my best option. But when you've burned that bridge in your life, it's hard sometimes to rebuild it. And the thing that I'm noticing now in my life is, and I'm excited about, and I see as a good thing, is that I'm taking time to decide if I want to burn the bridge. Before I do it. And I think that's a sign of growth. That's a sign of looking at things differently. And I don't look at it as a bad thing that came into my head that I need to run away. When that old thing crops up, me noticing that it's cropping up is way different than just doing it and lighting that match and burning that, and I look at it now, even as we're talking about this, because I never thought of that before. Thinking about it, that, hey, I don't have to burn it. I can wait and see if I need to. And there are times that, yes, we have to let go of people and we have to move on because they're not good for our life. But not doing that in an emotion of woundedness.
And I mean, of course, I'll bring up that spiritual, it goes around the spiritual world. It goes around therapists, counselors as well. That whole, a reason, a season, a lifetime. The people in our life, sometimes it is just for a reason. Sometimes it is for a season, and sometimes it's for a lifetime. And I think the seasons, what you have to remember about people with seasons or even reasons, because the lifetime one, that makes sense. That's self-explanatory. They're there all the time. Season people and reason people can come back to your life. They can come back into your life multiple times for multiple reasons, multiple seasons, just like seasons happen on Earth. We don't just have one summer and never have summer again. It's like a continuous thing. So that's sort of what happens. So yes, while the person, it is true that, a person may be in your life for a reason or a season. And maybe there's a breakdown of a relationship, but it doesn't mean that in the future you might not come back around again. And we have talked about this too. Sometimes, actually many times, because it's all orchestrated. Everything is all not fully planned because you have free will, but it's all, the opportunities are always provided to you. So the opportunities will always present themselves. And whatever is the best option will show itself to you. And sometimes it is the same person coming back a few times, and sometimes it's a totally different person, but they seem to have the same qualities, the same traits, the same situation comes up. And I know that this, for other people, and I haven't had this experience in my life yet, but with people who would have gotten married a second time or a third time or a fourth time, whatever the case may be, and they said they married like the same person each time, even though it wasn't the actual same person, but
the same traits.
And traits of the person. And a lot of times it's just that, because you need to, like, the universe is giving you the opportunity to heal that or to make a different choice. So this kind of goes along with last week too, is the choices thing. And sometimes the choice is just a different perspective.
Yeah. And I see it as you're talking about that. What I see in my mind's eye is a roadway. Off to that roadway, there's many different ramps. There's many different highways. There's many little trails. You can go off on one of those trails and it's going to bring you back to that same roadway.
Right.
You go off deeper into the trail, but eventually it turns around and you end up back on the same road. And sometimes that's what happens to us, is that we end up on the same road because we need to heal something.
Right.
And this thing, when old traits keep cropping up, it isn't about the other person.
No.
It's because something within me, and I know from my situation, it's that thing within me that causes me to burn that bridge.
Yep.
It's that thing that causes me to burn that bridge. And I've got to look at, why is that my first choice?
Right.
Why isn't healing and looking deeper into it and uncovering it? And I think the reason that it keeps coming back around is because that's something within me that I need to look at.
And I do believe as well, because the old version of Maggie, quote unquote, old version of Maggie, didn't care if they cut the person out, because it was protection of yourself. As you grew and became more of your loving, kind self, the true soul, and as you wanted and desired to give more love, to show more love to not only yourself, but other people around you, you notice more, you recognize more the times when you may not be acting as loving and kind and caring as you wish to be. And especially the two of us, we hold ourselves highly to what we practice, what we preach. So if we're telling you that this is the things that we do, we're going to try our best every day to do those things. And so when you see something that comes up and you're like, hey, that wasn't exactly the most kind, caring thing, thought, idea, or action, whatever the case may be. What is that? What is that? Where did that come from? And just having that awareness of saying, hey, that wasn't the most kind and caring thing. that's already how much have you grown, how much have you changed, that version, the old version of Maggie, the previous version of Maggie no longer resonates with the stuff that you used to do, the things that you do. And most of it is out of habit, because we do it to protect ourselves. We don't even you don't think about it at first.
Right.
And now you are thinking, you're like, hey, wait a second, what was that? What was that?
Yeah.
So
who is that? Like, what's that happening?
Yeah.
And that's where I say that isn't something to beat yourself up about.
No.
That's something to celebrate.
For sure.
Celebrate that, because you're having those normal emotions that you have as a human being.
Yeah.
But taking a chance to look at it and see if you could respond in a different way.
For sure.
Because maybe the way, and I like to use the word respond instead of react, because I look at it that a lot of the time in my previous Maggie life, I did more reacting than responding.
Right. Yes.
And the person that I am today does not want to be the person who just reacts to every emotion that I have. I like to dissect them and see why am I feeling that? Why is that coming up? Why is it coming up twice in 1 month?
Yeah.
Why is it coming up twice in 1 month? Because I know it's got zero to do with the other person.
For sure.
And everything to do with Maggie.
Yeah.
So why is it coming up? So to our listeners today, that's what we ask you. If something keeps coming up in your life, why? Ask yourself why. Invite the opportunity for Creator to shine a light on it, to shine a light on something that maybe you need to heal a little more. Don't beat yourself up for it. Give yourself a pat on the back for even noticing that it's something
and that's what I was gonna say. Make sure that you handle yourself with kindness and love as well. If you do react, if you do still have moments where something happens and you do react, that's okay.
Which I do.
Yeah, that's okay too. I do too. We all do. And if you do still have those moments, that's okay too, because you're not meant to be perfect, right? You're not meant to be perfect. So perfect in your imperfection is exactly the way it is. So when those things come up, when that stuff happens, just go, oh, yep, I done goofed. Like that's oops, oops. And I mean, that might mean some kind of apology. So there's a whole bunch of different things. I think, sometimes, yes, somebody might react to some way, and you might, that relationship may no longer move forward.
As I said, sometimes you do have to burn bridges that are not meant for you. Sometimes you do.
Yeah.
But don't start the fire before you know.
Yeah. Before you know for sure. And before you know, is this from the most loving and caring? Because I think that's really what it is. What is I think asking that question, not only why is this coming up, but is this the most loving version of myself? Is that the choice? When I'm making this choice, is it coming from, and it's okay if the answer is no. It's okay if the answer today is no, I'm still hurt and I'm not ready to do this today.
Right. You can trust it will come back.
It will. Because
you'll get another opportunity.
Because the universe is always giving you opportunities. That's the thing. I remember when we've talked about things before, when you ask for strength, when you say, universe, give me courage or give me strength, the universe is going to give you, how are you going to show that you have courage? The universe is going to give you things that are going to make you scared. They're going to give you opportunities for you to show courage. So like my dad used to say, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. He would remind me of that all the time, because it's you might get it. You don't know, like, and you don't know how it's going to happen, but those opportunities are there for you. And it's not a pass or fail. No. It's a, how do you want to handle it this time? Okay. Next time, do you want to change it or no? Like that's really, it's not pass or fail.
Yeah, for sure. Life is not about pass or fail. It's
Yeah,
about doing the best you can in the moment that you are.
right.
You know, it's like I love the Maya Angelou quote that
Yeah,
says, "Do the best you can until you know better, and when you know better, do better."
right.
And that's kind of the story of today.
Hmm.
If you know better, do better. And I think that's what Maggie is faced with on a
Yeah,
daily basis, because some things I know better about now. So I want to do better.
right.
So I invite you
Yeah.
to do the same.
Yeah. And I want to say something as a little bit, just as we're about to close down our podcast for today, is what I happens all the time when Maggie and I get together and we start talking, and this definitely happened last week, and I know it's happening again this week, is we get a topic and we are absolutely shocked and amazed about where the direction of spirit took us. And I want to say that happened again this week. I know last week when we shut down the live, we both went, what was that? Like, where did that come from? And that happens all the time. So playing with spirit, which is what we do right now, creator, the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it's like, I'm called Bunny. I also have a legal name. My kids call me mom. My nieces call me aunt. So like I have all the same, it's still pointing to the same person. Same thing with God, creator, the universe, spirit, is that when you play with that, when you have fun and see where it's going to take you, it's incredible. It takes you some amazing places and experiences and opportunities. So just keep on doing that.
So with that, that's it for live chats today on Monday, August 14th. We're happy for the moments that we are in your life, and we give great gratitude for the fact that you listen to the stuff we have to say. So thanks to our listeners, and Bunny will tell you where to hear from us.
Well, you can always find us wherever podcasts are. Spotify is who we host with. It used to be Anchor, but Anchor was purchased by Spotify. It's a very easy system to use, so I love it. And we go out to Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, everywhere. Maggie would be surprised all the places where people can hear from us. And also, do keep in mind, we do have our At Above and Beyond business, our Facebook page. Give a check it out. Also, go to our website. We do have, we're currently doing this right now, we do have call out for 2 books. One of them is our free option, so no cost to you to be able to write with us. We do still have some spaces left for you to write. September 15th is the deadline, and that would be our Christmas Miracles book. Does not have to be a specifically Christmas book or story. You can write about a different holiday if you wanted. It is more just because holidays. Doesn't have to be a miracle, doesn't have to be nonfiction, could be fiction, whatever it is you want to write about. And we also have our other book opportunity, which is Grand Experiences, which is all about the generational bonds of grandparents and grandchildren, which does have a little bit of investment on your part. But go ahead and come to ataboveandbeyond.com or email us at ataboveandbeyond@gmail.com. We have our mascot, Connor, barking over at Maggie's house today. So. Anyways, that's Maggie saying bye. And we're going to sign off.
I say goodbye and the dog barking.
Yeah.
Bye.
Connor saying bye too.